Yeah, how's it going, man?
Good. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. I'm Cory Mckane. I'm the CEO of We Strive, and I've been at this fitness game for a long time. I had an idea like 6 years ago to create this ultimate fitness program marketplace, and we spent about 3.5 years building that out. We essentially finished up with having about 250 personal trainers, 500 full length fitness programs on this platform, and we kind of realized that trainers enjoyed being able to sell their programs, but they much rather would have a place where they can run their entire business. So we pivoted, and I spent a long time just like, didn't really have any money, just kind of bootstrapping and figuring out how to build up this new platform. And we finally just launched a few months ago with our new software, and just super excited about that. So it's been a good time, and that's who I am. So I'm from Washington State, lived in LA for a few years, and now I'm based out here in Austin, Texas.
Awesome, man. Well, I think that's the one of the biggest struggles in the fitness industry is just trying to get, if you want to do something yourself, you have to like I guess like anything really, but you have to really kind of learn and do a lot of different things well.
Mhm.
It seems like everybody has those skills of, oh, let's build some programs, let's do this, let's do that, but to take it to the next level of like, you know, setting up your business or doing something like that, it's cool that you saw that was somewhere that needed some help.
Exactly, yeah, and even with our new platform, like we're constantly innovating and adding new concepts. And I have a note right here to make a new trainer kind of kit. So like whenever trainers sign up, we're going to have a full dashboard and essentially a kit, so that when they sign up, they can learn how to like get certified, and they can get how to get insurance, how to build a website, that kind of stuff. So yeah, we're constantly just trying to give those extra business tools for trainers as well.
Yeah, I think that's definitely a really good tool, not just for, the individual that uses it, but for the industry as a whole. It really professionalizes, it seems like, the industry.
Mhm. Absolutely. Yeah, and I just think it's a lot. It's just lacking. I mean, personal trainers, they get their certification, and then no one shows them how to run a business. Like it's not their fault that they don't know how to set up an LLC, or how to get like they know they have to get certified. Like they just basically get their cert, and they're amazing personal trainers. They understand the human body to a crazy extent, but then all these other aspects of, they don't realize they're a business owner as well. So that's where we're kind of try and come in and help.
Yeah, it's really cool stuff you're doing. But how did you initially get into the world of fitness?
Yeah, I mean, I was very involved in sports as a kid. I played soccer and basketball pretty much my whole life. Absolutely love both to this day. Still play basketball once a week. Soccer is a little harder to get into as a pickup game, but make it work. Yeah, so very involved from a young age. Started lifting weights at like 16, I think, or maybe 14. So I got really obsessed with that. I was benching like 3 days a week. Like I don't know how I did that, because now I can't. I definitely get way too sore if I do that. So started doing like push-ups in middle school every night. So I built up like a chest at like 13, stuff like that. So my dad got me very involved in early weightlifting, I guess, around that time. And when I was a senior in high school, or junior and senior, I took this fitness specialist class 2 years in a row, and was very involved in that. And then I did like a gym owner mentorship for about, I think, a quarter, where I would go into Gold's Gym locally. I knew the owner, and I would sit in on meetings and take notes and like learn about like quarterly updates and like gym upkeep. And then I worked at a lot of gyms, and then I did a couple strongman competitions a few times. More not strongman, but like like kind of strongman. I don't know per se, like lifting the boulders and stuff like that. I don't know. I never won, but like I did pretty well. And yeah, so just super involved. I really really enjoy fitness and health, and so that's kind of how I got into the industry initially.
Gotcha. So was it something that you kind of did, looking back at it, was it something that was something that came from you? Was it something that maybe you saw on TV or friends were doing? Like, where did it kind of spark from?
The like fitness in general, or the app.
Yeah, the fitness in general.
I think the real, I mean, I just love sports just to begin with when I was younger, but I think the real passion to like personal training and weightlifting just started like my freshman year of high school, where I had been like benching, or sorry, I'd been doing push-ups and sit-ups my whole life. And then I walked into like a weight room for the first time. And all of a sudden my bench, I think my freshman year, my bench went from like, I want to say I was maybe benching, uh, like fall quarter, I was probably benching like 125 pounds. And then by the end of the year, I was benching like, I think 215 or 225. So I went up like almost 100 pounds on my bench, if not 90, in just the beginning, like my first year of high school. I just loved it. And then sophomore year or maybe junior year, one of my buddies made fun of me for not squatting, for being able to bench more than I squat. So I got really pissed off. And then I started squatting a lot, and then my squat got way higher than my bench. So I just kind of got really competitive with it, with myself, with other people around me. You have your classmates that are, I mean, there's always people that could power clean like 350 pounds, and I'd be deadlifting that much. So, but I just got very competitive with it. I just fell in love with it. I think it also ties into my personal training company, We Strive, is I love achieving goals. I love setting goals and achieving them. I want to build the best platform for personal trainers for the whole health and wellness industry. And that's a very massive goal, but I think setting little mini goals as you go on, just like setting a bench press goal, is how you get to that eventual like end game goal.
Yeah. Speaking of goals, was there like a goal you had when was it to own a gym? Like what, before you started thinking about, the software and the app and all that stuff, was there a different kind of direction you thought you would go in?
Yeah. So I actually have my accounting degree. So like before I started this app, I had no idea I was going to start this app. I had already kind of moved out of the fitness industry. I saw a big gap, and I realized I was like, we could definitely do this. So, but going back in time a little bit, I did that gym owner mentorship in high school. I did want to own a gym. I thought that'd be so cool. And then I got really deep into it, and I realized that there's just so much competition, and, you're dealing with like people that are complaining about, cleanliness, and they're switching memberships. And there's just so much just like politics involved in it sometimes. And I was just like, you know what, like unless you found like some small town that didn't have a gym and you just made the only gym in that town, it just seemed like such a hassle. And then you're really never truly making an insane profit off of it. Like you're always having this insane overhead and worrying about like some gym popping up or some getting sued. So I was just like, you know what, this is not worth my time. So props to gym owners out there, doing your thing, but it wasn't for me.
Yeah. It seems like too, like, when you have something you love like that, it's almost risky getting into business with it, because it's almost like, I don't want to burn this fire out that I have for it, and ruin that love I have for something.
Exactly.
So I guess, how long did it take you between realizing you didn't want to be a gym owner to creating this software?
So I probably decided I didn't want to be a gym owner around like 17 or 18. I don't really know there's no like special moment or whatever, but, and then actually my junior year of high school, I did this class called Fitness Specialist, like I mentioned. And then I created this website on my own where I was just called like, find workouts something.net or something like that. And it was basically like, are you sick of Googling fitness programs? Head to our website. We have a collection of programs from certified trainers around the world. And what's funny is that's actually what we ended up creating as the app about 8 years later. So yeah, I mean, there's definitely a gap. I'd say at least like a 4 to 6 year gap between deciding I didn't want to own a gym to creating starting on this insane journey to create the biggest fitness program marketplace.
So what do you think one of the biggest kind of, if somebody says, I want to be a personal trainer, but what do you think that biggest but is for people a lot of the times?
I think a lot of people think that, and I'm not a personal trainer to clarify. I took the test when I was 17 or 18, missed it by one question, never got certified. So to clarify, but I think the biggest thing is trainers, they don't think they can make enough money, and like rightfully so. Like a lot of trainers don't make a lot of money, but if you grow your business and do it effectively, you can make an insane amount of money. Like as the CEO of a company that runs a software for trainers, I see a ton of our trainers that make way more money than I make as the CEO. So it's like I built this, and we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars and years of work to build this insane software so they can run their business, and they're making more money than I am just running their own business. Like we had one trainer that charged like $2,500 for one session with her, or not one session, for one package for her client. I don't know if that was 6 months. I don't know if it was a month. I didn't ask, but I was just like, damn, like that's a good amount of revenue. So I think trainers get worried about that, and they get stuck in that, working at Planet Fitness or something like that, making like $15 to $18 an hour to train people. But they don't realize is that if you just keep doing that for a few years, maybe even 1 year, especially with how online training works, like with We Strive, you're going to get that one client in, Pennsylvania that's like, hey, I would love to train with you. And then one client, like your buddy moved to Puerto Rico. He's like, hey, I'm living on the beach. We don't have a gym here. Like, I would love to just train with you. How much would you charge? You go, I don't know, like $300 a month. And he goes, cool. And you go, oh my God, I didn't think he'd say yes. And then all of a sudden you have like 3 clients online. And so you're making 17 an hour at Planet Fitness, but you're making $1,000 a month, just making a couple programs and keeping track of their progress. And so that can really build over time. And I know some trainers that have, made insane amounts of money just from building out that database.
Yeah, it is. I think that is true. One of the biggest things when people that aren't personal trainers and somebody says, I'm a personal trainer, I think the first thought that comes to their mind is like, oh, well, like what are you planning on doing, for the rest of your life then?
Exactly.
Yeah, it's almost like personal training is it's the stop between, what you're maybe after school, you're doing something after you graduate college to your next real job, people might call it, or, something like that. It's not taken too seriously.
No, exactly. And it's kind of a shame too, because it's a really cool profession. You can help people really just change their lives. And it is, I mean, there's a lot of careers like that where they kind of act as like stepping stones into the next career. But I mean, yeah, you can make a ton of money personal training if you do it effectively. So it's a lifelong career for a lot of people. And, unfortunately, people don't usually retire early from personal training. But I mean, you're working a lot of shifts, but you're helping people like achieve their goals. You're, putting food on the table. And, if you do it correctly, you can make a lot of money doing it.
Yeah. And I think it's one of those things too, where, if you do figure out and find the right, clientele and do all that stuff, it's one of those things where you can almost like build your own schedule. It's a very freedom kind of person that likes freedom. It's something that they could really enjoy if they set it up right. Now, if they obviously don't, then they're kind of going to be a slave to just trying to get as many hours in as possible too. That's kind of the downside with that.
I just had a good idea for a blog article. See schedules. No, I totally agree. I was going to do a blog article on like how to set a personal trainer's schedule, how to set it. I like that. Good stuff. Yeah, no, I totally agree. I mean, I set my own schedule. Sometimes it's usually amazing. Sometimes it's bad because I'm just like, I'll set like today, I woke up, I usually wake up super early. I woke up a little later and I was like, I didn't schedule any calls this morning. And so it's like, that's on me that I didn't schedule calls. And then I like kind of slowly got to work and I usually don't do that. And so I don't know, like it's usually amazing, but sometimes you're like, you wish you had that forced structure. So sometimes I'll schedule calls like back to back to back to back, just so I know that I have to be working at that time. But I mean, yeah, being able to set your schedule is incredible. And I think trainers really enjoy that, especially trainers that leave a gym and work independently, where they've got like a couple clients online. They're training a couple clients at the park, a couple at their home gym like you have, or training them on the beach, wherever you're at. People seem to really enjoy having that kind of mix up each day and being able to customize that journey with their clientele.
So you kind of mentioned it a little bit at the beginning, but kind of go into a little bit more detail about on the journey of, having this idea, having, the idea of, oh, this could really be helpful to where you are now. Just kind of walk us through that a little bit. Yeah.
And to briefly summarize what we were and what we are now is before it was a marketplace for fitness programs. And now we're an entire 360 approach for personal trainers where they can manage clients, build programs, track progress, billing, group inbox, like literally everything under the sun that a trainer could need. And so, I mean, how it started, basically I had this idea. I mean, I could write a whole book on how long I've been working on this for 6 years. So it's like, I could write a whole book on this journey. So essentially, we had this idea and I was like, I want to make it actually didn't start as a fitness program marketplace. It started as this thing called, it was originally called Perfect. So PERFICT, and the fit was capitalized. And I had a branding guy that I knew that was leaving Eastern Washington where I was. He was going back to LA in a week. So he's like, you have this idea for a fitness app, pitch me in 3 days. And then before I leave to LA, I'll give you some feedback. And so we created this thing and half the screen said live fit, half the screen said love fit. And it was like this app for women to work out. And it was like lift fit was the other part of it. And so we had this like terrible pitch. And then he's like, that sucks. But then I like this idea that trainers can like sell programs and like kind of a marketplace kind of a thing. And so it's weird to think back on that because it's literally a lifetime ago. That person is so much dumber than me on every aspect of business. But yeah, we got started with it and just pretty much just started grinding. It was me and an old roommate, still one of my best friends, but he lasted about 2 months and he's like, yeah, I don't care about this. So it's crazy that this started in a dorm room 6 years ago. And 6 years later, I have like investors around the world. We have like hundreds of trainers using it. And I've got I'm living in Texas now. So yeah, I mean, it's a crazy long story. I mean, we pitched to the investor after investor, developer after developer, and they just did not care. They thought it was really stupid. A couple of years later, we finally get our app off the ground, and then it just sucks. And we get pulled from the app store, and then I find a new development team in Ukraine. We started working with Ukrainians to develop the app, and then we launched again in 2018. Apple again pulled our app up the app store. I had this 120 person launch party on a rooftop in Santa Monica for this big app launch for Perfect, and the day of, they were just like, hey, we messed up. We shouldn't have approved your app. Sorry about that. You're going to have to update your entire pricing model. And they pulled the app. So I had this big launch party and no one got to download an app at an app launch party. So it was just like, yeah, it was super. Yeah. So just tons of stuff like that happened along the journey. And like one time I flew out to LA, this investor was going to give me $250,000 for X amount of my company. And then he just ghosted me and never showed up. So I had to fly back empty handed. So just those kind of things just along the line on my journey happened time and time again. And I finally got the app launched, and then we realized, okay, this actually isn't the right app. And we had to pivot to what we have now.
How did that, like initially those setbacks, did that like shake your confidence in the idea? Did it shake your confidence in you? Like, did you ever think like, maybe this just isn't the thing that I thought it was going to be?
I do that to this day. I mean, we have some trainers that'll DM me and be like, this literally is changing my life. I don't have to use PDFs anymore and I can actually run my whole business. And I'm like, awesome. And then one small thing will happen. I'm like, why am I doing this? And so it's like, it's confidence is really important as an entrepreneur. And I've been broken so many times by this startup. And actually what's crazy is I've been broken so many times and I've been like with, negative 30,000, like, I owe like 40 grand or whatever. Or at one point I owed my dev team like 40 grand and they just, on top of my credit card debt, and they just waived it. And they were like, well, let's turn this into equity. So we're good. So yeah, there's been so many times where I was massively in debt. We had no app and I had no investors and trainers couldn't use it yet. And I'm like, I would take a step back and I'd be like, wow, I'm 4 years into this and I've made no money. My friends are buying boats and houses and shit. And I'm just like sitting here with nothing. So even like 4 months ago before we relaunched, we weren't really making any money yet. It was just like, I'm just sitting here like, okay, what have I achieved in almost 6 years? And so thankfully I knew there was light at the end of the tunnel, which is where we are now, where we're growing each month. Trainers love it. And we're adding some amazing features like every week. But yeah, my confidence has been shaken so many times that now I'm just like, whatever, like I'm just used to it. I'm like, cool, we'll get it fixed. Yeah.
Dang. That's a lot of crazy stuff. And I feel like it's so not beneficial to go through those things, not necessarily beneficial, but like the person and the stuff you learn along the way is just massively beneficial when it comes to just like the future of your business, the future, your own life, the things you can apply to. It's just,
you got to persevere, man. That's why I'm still with that Ukrainian development team. They have like 100 employees, and the founder of it always talks about, he's like, I don't know how you persevere through all this crap. I'm like, I don't know. It's like, I'm not the most confident person ever, like not even close. And so it's just more of just like I'm already here. Like, why would I turn back now kind of a thing? And also I'm just very confident that there is a huge gap in personal training, and we're actually expanding into nutrition, physical therapy, health coaching. We're going to create this all-in-one health and wellness kind of ecosystem. But I'm confident in all those areas that there is a huge gap, and that our competitors aren't doing a good enough job of supporting these trainers and doing a good enough job of creating a platform that can help them actually grow and manage their business. I just kind of see them slacking and not really doing anything. So I'm very confident that we can do that. So that's kind of what pushes me through each day. Is I look at what's happening in the world. I'm like, we could do a better job of this, and we are doing a better job of it. So that's kind of what, gets me to that next point.
So when it comes to like the app and stuff, it's funny you mentioned like getting rejected and everything like that by Apple, because I just heard the other day that they have just some some sometimes harsh, like stuff on their app store. And I think, aren't they being sued right now for being like
Yeah, so they're
monopoly or
being
some
sued all
kind
the
of?
time. It's just like they're being sued by Epic Games, they're being sued by
That's right.
Spotify, they're being sued by I think Match.com. So what happens is they take 30% of sales, which is obscene. I mean, don't get me wrong. If they took 5 to 10%, I would get that. It's like, you built this amazing platform. You have the iPhone. We need you to run our business. We get it. But then it's like, you can't take 30% of what some like. So that was actually our biggest problem with Perfect, with our original marketplace, is that we'd have these trainers would sell these programs. And actually, ironically, this is why we got pulled off the app stores. We were trying to use we were trying to use Apple Pay. So there's Apple Pay, and there's in-app purchases. Apple Pay is like Stripe or like Visa. It's basically just a credit card processing system. In-app purchases is where you use your thumb and you pay with your Apple ID. So Apple Pay is just 3%, whatever, 3.5%, 2%, whatever it is, and then in-app purchases is at 30% BS. So we were trying to use Apple Pay, and then for Android, we were using Braintree, which is PayPal's provider. We were using that for our marketplace, and they approved it 3 times. And the reason we got booted off the App Store for my Santa Monica launch party was because they said that the guy that approved it all those times with Apple Pay shouldn't have done that. He messed up. So I had a terrible launch party, and I got screwed over completely for months of work because they did that. So we had to rebuild the platform and switch it from Apple Pay to in-app purchases, AKA that whole year that we had our marketplace live, they were taking 30% of our sales. So when they take 30% of their sales, it's like, okay, so now we were going to do a 70-30 split with our trainers. And now we have to give our trainers like 65% and just take 5 off that 30%. So there's also a lot of, I'm not going to say names, but there's a lot of fitness companies out there that are pushing out a bunch of BS. They'll tell trainers that they're giving trainers 80% of sales, but I wish I could say the name, but I'm not going to do it. But what they're actually doing is Apple takes 30%, and then you're getting 80% of that 30%. So we were upfront and telling you that you're going to get 65%, which you did. You got Apple takes 30. We're at 70 now. We take 5. You're at 65. These companies will say you're going to get 80. That's not true. You're getting 80% of 70. So instead of getting 80%, you're getting like what, 57. So it's like a completely dishonest thing that these companies do. But now I'm just ranting at this point. But I don't even know what your question was. But basically, that's what's happening. Oh yeah, that's what's happening. Is Epic is saying like, look, we built this amazing platform. We're not going to give you 30% of our subscription. This is BS. You're like literally just like monopolizing this concept, and so they're spending all the money that they can to sue Apple, and so we're back here like cheering for them, but like I don't have the money
Quietly.
to support. Exactly.
Very
Yeah, I'm just like,
quietly.
let's go. Actually, I got interviewed by the Financial Times. I don't know if it's going to publish or not, but I got interviewed about my story too with Apple, and so yeah, they're just trying to make the best case that they can against Apple, and so we'll see. So I don't know. That's kind of how that all works.
So when it comes to the app itself and like developing the software, is that something that you have like you were initially had any like idea of how to do, like skills in, or and since then have you kind of gained some of that knowledge?
Yeah, so I don't code at all, and I remember back because I started this in February of 2015, and so I remember like April of 2015 sitting down going like, okay, cool, I'm gonna learn how to code. I wanted, because you always hear about those whiz kids that like teach themselves how to code at home, and then they make like $1 million, and you're like, that's sick, let's do that. And so I'm very creative, I'm very hardworking, but I'm smart, I'm very smart, but I'm not that smart as far as like book smart goes. I can't do it. I can't teach myself. It's ridiculous. Like the coding is very difficult. And there's a reason that people get paid hundreds of thousands of dollars a year to do it. Like starting salary for a good software developer in the US is like 110K. So there's a reason for that. And so for me, I sat down to learn like Python or some coding language. And I took like a 30-minute class, and I was like, yeah, screw this. I'm not gonna be able to do this. So yeah, I don't know how to code. About a year ago, I told one of my investors, I was like, I think I'm gonna learn how to code Python. And he's like, we're not going to pay you. Like, we're not going to investing in you to learn, where you have a development team that does that for you. So very early on, I didn't know how coding worked. Now I have a very good understanding of it. back in the day, I had literally no possible clue. The only thing I'd ever done is like do a little website, like change the color and the words on it, whatever. But yeah, now we used to be on an, cause you can, so like quick app description. So you can code, it's called natively. So you can code like an iOS app and then rebuild an entire Android app, or you can code on a dual platform. I don't remember the name specifically, but we used to be on a platform called Xamarin. That got a little outdated. And then we just relaunched on a platform called Flutter, which is Google's multi-platform thing. So basically what you can do is you can code on Android and iOS at the same time and then launch both with one coding system. So that's what our dev team does. And we have like web developers and backend developers and like people that work on our servers and shit like that. So whole lot of stuff. Yeah.
Man, I had a roommate in college, actually. He was doing that for his degree, and
same. Yeah.
He would just like have homework out, and it literally looked like a foreign language. I was like, what is that?
Yeah, exactly. And that's actually how this app started, is that I came home from class one night and my roommate Braden and my roommate Wes, and Wes was the coding major, like your roommate. And they were writing on the whiteboard. They were like, let's build an app. And I was going to like go to bed, but then I was like, oh, this sounds fun. I'll be a part of this. And then we eventually were like, let's build a fitness app. And I was like, yeah. And then 6 years later, here we are. So if I hadn't come home that night at that time, I wouldn't have this app right now. So that's kind of how that all got started.
Wow. That's crazy to think, you could have been placed with anybody else, or, just all the variables that go into that. That's crazy. But
yeah, exactly.
So did you have this so you had the idea, but did you have really like the artistic idea, or like what it was going to look like, or anything like that?
Yeah, to an extent. I mean, my it's funny, my designs from 6 years ago were terrible, but the core concept to this day we're still using. You still have a profile and a calendar and a journal and all that stuff. So I didn't know it was, I had no idea what we were going to do now, but the core concept of the mobile app was there. I didn't even consider web. I had no idea. And now we're like mostly a web software. And what's crazy too is that even so after 2018 summer, we had our launch party, and I was like, cool, let's start working on this this new software that we have now, which is WeStrive. I sent my dev team a PDF that had 110 pages in it that I had spent months building. And it was 110 pages of features, like homepage does this, profile does this does this. And what's crazy is that I thought that was insane to have that many pages and features. And that was probably like 1/20th of what we have now. So, because I sent them 110, they finally had like a 535. And that was just for our original launch last year in 2020. So now we have like thousands of updates. And so this insane amount of features that I thought we needed wasn't even close to what we have now. And what's crazy about now is that we even have like 500 more pages that we're going to be adding. Like we're adding this crazy scheduling tool. We're building our nutrition software. We're integrating this video technology to like do like live classes within WeStrive. So we're not even close to done. And it's a billion times more artistically than what I thought I needed each time. Yeah.
Yeah. And when it comes to, anybody that has a smartphone knows like, oh, your phone's updating, the apps are updating. Like what really goes into like all these updates of an app? Is it just like, is it those improvements a lot, or is it more just like bug fixes? Like what's a really about?
Combination of both. And I'm glad you asked that, because I was going to bring this up. Like, for example, our mobile app right now, it's on Flutter, Google. And so a lot of these coding languages have pre-built libraries. And so when you're training on WeStrive, you have, you'll have your exercise there where you can record your sets and reps, and you're swiping through it to go through each exercise. And then you'll have the photo, but you can click on watch a video. And so we pull from Flutter a specific YouTube library so it's coded in there. And so when a trainer adds a YouTube video or a Vimeo video into the backend on our website, when you're a client, you can just push play and watch that. So what happened this week was iOS updated, and they had a new, it's like 1.53 or whatever. It could be like 15. I don't even know, but they had a new update. So you update your phone. And so one of our trainers, thankfully she told me, one of our trainers on Monday was like, hey, whenever I click on a YouTube video, my app crashes. And I was like, what do you mean? And so I couldn't duplicate the concept. I couldn't duplicate. I was like, it's not crashing for me. I don't know what you're talking about. She sent me a video, and then one of our developers was like, well, what if it's with the new iOS update? So sure enough, I updated my phone and I clicked on the play and my app crashed. And I was like, oh my God. So what happened was the new iOS update, the YouTube library that we pull from hadn't updated correctly for the new iOS update. So it's not our fault, but like it was just shutting our app down. And our trainers were pissed off because of something that another company messed up on. And so we basically just had to like update it ourselves the last few days. And we just pushed out an update last night to fix that. So stuff like that happens all the time. A lot of the times updates are bug fixes, but for us, we push out a ton of new features. So pretty much every week, we're going to have a new web or mobile update. And it's going to be like feature oriented, basically.
Gotcha. And it just seems like with so many different places to go through, you have the place where you develop it, develop the app and the software and all this stuff. You have to do the coding, and then you have to deal with, Apple or whoever's doing their updates. It seems like you're always, you'd have to always be like on the watch, or like, something's always, it seems like, could potentially go wrong. I can't imagine like you just can't like build it and then, let it go, let it out.
It never works. It's insane. Like that's what's dumb about it is we have some really good developers too. And like, let me think of an example. For example, so this is an example of how stupid and ridiculous that sometimes you'll update one thing and then something way over here will just break. And you're just like, okay. So we have this dope new feature. If you're a trainer, check out We Strive. It's so cool. So you're building your program, right? And let's say that you have this warm up that you do every day. And it's like, 3 sets of, or like 5-minute foam roll, 3 sets of 25 jumping jacks, a 500-meter sprint, and then you're going to do like 15 burpees. And you want your client to do that before every day. And then you have like we have a note section on there, and it'll say like, blah, 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 like 500 characters of like, here's how I want you to do this. Make sure when you're foam rolling, do this, blah, 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 blah. So most apps, and before what we were doing, you had like, you can duplicate days, but like if you want to duplicate that exercise, you have to keep retyping that in. So now what we have is you can just click save. And then on another day, you can just click insert and it'll auto populate that whole warm up. And you can do that for like circuits, everything. It's so awesome. But we added that feature, and randomly it, for some reason, made it so that when you're in individual days for that, and then you can actually zoom out and see your full weeks. And then you can duplicate weeks. You'll have week 1, week 2, week 3, and you can just kind of duplicate. For some reason, when we added that saved circuit feature, it made it so that you couldn't add another week for no reason. You just couldn't add, you only could do 1 week. So we're just like, why? That makes no sense. But we had to spend like a day fixing that bug. And it was just like the most ridiculous bug of all time, but it has nothing to do with the circuit, but it broke the week for some reason. So that's kind of how it works is you unfortunately have to just hear from your users that bugs are existing, and you just have to fix them as fast as you can, pretty much. Cause you can't find everything. I'm very, very good at finding bugs, and I'm very good at fixing them, but I get a new bug once a week. They're usually small, but like it's kind of how it goes. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's everything matters. So it's like, you can't take anything and be like, oh, it's not a big deal, because that's,
exactly.
A feature somebody needs. Is that like, to me, that would just like keep me up at night, just like, oh, I got to check my phone to see if there's anything broken on this thing.
Oh, it insanely keeps me up at night. Because like, for example, our developers are in Ukraine. And so Monday and Tuesday of this week, they had their Easter, so they weren't working. And that trainer texted me, I believe, Monday morning. And she was like, hey, the app literally shuts down. And it was before we found out it wasn't our fault, but like, and she's like, well, I have, 5, I haven't been using the app because I didn't have any clients. And now I have 5 clients starting Friday. This app has to work by Friday. And I was like, well, sweet. I already have 2 days of no developers. And then Wednesday hit, she's like, hey, it's still not working. And I was like, hey, like, we're going to figure it out. Then we finally figured it out yesterday, but like, it's just keeps me up at night, very stressful. Sometimes it's just out of your control what you can do. And that's kind of what happens over time, is you realize it's literally out of your control. And you kind of just have to go, I'm not going to stress over this like I am, but like way less than I used to, because I'm not a developer. I can't fix this. We're going to get this fixed as fast as possible. and our trainers are going to understand because we give them great customer service, and we're always like, we'll give them like a free month or something like that if we mess them up too bad. But thankfully we rarely have to do that. But there are times where there's just annoying situations, or like, for example, if a trainer asks for like a very specific feature that only they need, and then they get frustrated that we don't have it, it's just kind of like when we put it on our to-do list always. I'm very listening. I listen to all my trainers, but the problem is that we have to kind of weigh cost and benefit. It's like if you want this insane feature that's only for you, and then 20 other trainers want this feature, it's like I can't build your feature. I'm sorry. So sometimes we have to just let trainers go to another platform. Like that's way too unique. I'm sorry. I would never build a wrestling feature. It's like like I'm not, So yeah.
So when it comes to like just adding a feature, even something to the smallest degree, I feel like a lot of people don't understand, and myself included, but I kind of appreciate the time it does take. But what kind of time frame are you looking at? If it's like, oh, can you add this feature, and you're like, yeah, we'll get it added. Is that like we can get this thing up in like a week, a day, a month? Like how long would it really take to do something like that?
It all depends. And I've been doing this for so long that I pretty much I have a pretty good idea ballpark of like, if someone goes, can we add this pop-up? I'm like, yeah, we'll add that in like 20 minutes, or like maybe like an hour or two. But if someone, like, for example, right now we handle all of our billing through Stripe, so trainers can do one-time or recurring billing through Stripe. And so right now we are only in the US for that, but then all week, this week and next week, we're expanding into like 50 other countries. So you can do it like in, if you're in, maybe not Russia, but like, Canada, Australia, New Zealand, wherever you're at, you can run your billing through that. And so that's going to probably take a week and a half. For all I know, it could be the craziest feature of all time and take 3 months. But for example, we always had an inbox in our app, but we updated the website and then we updated the mobile app they're both new coding languages that are way faster in January. And I was like, well, where's the inbox? And they're like, well, we have a brand new coding language, so we have to build a brand new inbox. And I was like, okay. And it literally took 3 months. Well, don't get me wrong, we had to keep pausing and like adding this feature, pause, add this feature. So it was it was very chopped up. But like we didn't have an inbox until late March, and we just added notifications for our inbox 2 weeks ago. Excuse me. So I mean, it's very frustrating sometimes, but like I can only do so much, and I can't help them out. But some features take an insane amount of time. Some are very simple. And how the kind of the timeline or the roadmap works for features is that, let's say the trainer says, I want you to add, let's see a good example. I'll do 2 examples. One, we have a trainer named Ron. He said, hey, right now, when you're on the assigned page, if I alphabetically organize my programs, I can only scroll so far. Can you increase that expansion when you're organizing it? So again, very specific, doesn't really bother him, but he's like, this would be nice to be able to keep scrolling. Kind of a bug, kind of more a feature request. We could fix that. I put that on my to-do list for our dev team. My project manager sees that and she goes, cool. She moves that to another software where they have like their Ukrainian like tracking in Ukraine, in Ukrainian, the language. And then my developer will put that in his priority list, and then he'll update that when he has time pretty much. But then a bigger update, like for example, we're building out this beautiful new trainer app. And so that's taken months to design. So I do all our designs early. And then, so I have a whole page on, it's called Figma. It's an amazing design platform. And I'll put like all the thoughts I have of every trainer's ever requested, like a notes pop-up, a program builder mobily, the client mobile apps or client profiles. So I'll design all of that. And then my designer and I will go back and forth, and he'll make it look very, very good. And then from there, we'll take that and then piece it up into little chunks. And our project manager will work with our developers to slowly build out that plan. They're going to give me a timeline and a scope, and then we'll basically slowly implement those updates. But sometimes, in conclusion, sometimes it's very simple. Sometimes it's like a 6 to 8 month project. So you never really know.
Gotcha. And it's cool that you can, people can say, hey, let's, can you do this for me? Can you make this update, or can you do this, whatever?
And I think that's what our trainers appreciate. And I can't do that forever. I think some of our trainers are going to be very upset in like 3 to 6 months when we have like thousands of trainers. And I'm just like, guys, I can't talk to all of you. I'm sorry, I have to run this company. Because there's times I'm doing it now because I really appreciate our trainers, and I really appreciate like what they've done for us. And just being a part of like this dream that I had is just, I'm gonna cry about, it's amazing. So I really appreciate that. And so that's one thing that you're not going to get from another platform, is that like, if there's an issue or you want to add a feature, the CEO will hop on a call with you and say like, how can I help you? What can we do to make this better? Again, can't do it forever, but like we will never become one of these massive training platforms that like you ask for a feature and 2 months later you get some random dude that doesn't even know anything about personal training saying like, hey, what do you mean? Like, what's going on? That's not where we're going to be. We're always going to be on top of our customer service. So I'm probably going to hire someone to basically replace me as the like customer liaison and just talk to our trainers. But I love it because I have trainers that send me, I still have to reply to one on an email, but I have trainers that send me like full reports like, hey, Cory, here's 18 things that I think you could improve on. And they have like full paragraphs, and I'll respond to each comment like, yes, love it. Already doing this. You missed this feature. It's actually over here, like kind of stuff like that. And so it's incredible. I absolutely love it. Yeah.
That's pretty cool. And is it even possible to like create something, an app or some kind of software, and it just be the way you want it, the way that it, quote unquote, I guess, is the perfect version of itself that first time? Or is it just trial and error kind of stuff and adding it and fixing it and that kind of thing?
I mean, it's possible. And that's why I encourage tech founders to like start very simply, like just having 2 to 3 features, like a super basic app. Like you have a stopwatch and then you have a profile. Just make it like that. There's no way that, but there will be bugs in that too. But like hypothetically, like if you just have the stopwatch, you push play and pause, that won't break. But I mean, it's not really possible. You're always going to have bugs. Like it's such a frustrating situation. Like some of the biggest companies, like for example, Instagram has billions of dollars, and I constantly, I'll go to post a story and I'll put my text there and I'll push the story post thing and it will glitch out and it won't work. And I'm like, why isn't this working? I'll have to exit out and redo it. And it's like, if Instagram has bugs, WeStrive can have bugs. So that's how I kind of like, don't lose as much sleep at night, as I know it's going to be a thing. We don't have a lot of bugs. We have a lot less bugs than a lot of our competitors, which like people leave because of the bugs are so insane. And we're also way more responsive of our bugs, but at the same time, like you're always going to have them. And it's just kind of how life works.
Yeah. Yeah. It's definitely, man, you get on and it's just, especially when you have this like mission or this idea at that exact time where you want to do something and something happens, it can definitely be frustrating, but it's cool that you're so on top of it right now. And like you said, it can't last forever, or in theory, you don't want it to last forever in a way, because then, it means you're not growing. But I think, like you said, once you hit a certain level, you hire somebody else, and that customer service is so important to
Exactly.
small businesses, especially.
Exactly. Yeah. It's always going to be our key focus. And, as we expand and add more trainers and we get nutrition on board and we get physical therapists and chiropractors and all that, like we're still going to be doing the same thing where we're working with these professionals on like a very much, as close as we can to a one-on-one basis, where they feel like they're part of a community and less of like, okay, here's this software that I pay for, you know what I mean? So that's kind of that's our overall vision.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. So, I mean, the future of, you kind of mentioned just growing in general, but what does the future of WeStrive look like?
Yeah, so I haven't talked about this too much, but outside of like investor pitches, but basically we're creating the first collaborative operating system for all health and wellness professionals. So if you're a personal trainer, your friend's a nutritionist, and another person's a physical therapist, you guys could all hypothetically share the same client on WeStrive. So that client doesn't need to keep restarting that onboarding process with each person. And if I approach, or if I go to the doctor's office as a client, I can just show them WeStrive and they can see my entire body weight history, what I've been eating. They can see all my physical therapy appointments. They can see what my trainer has me assigned with. And it's going to just drastically increase how people, but like how clients live their lives. And it's going to help people just live just healthier lives. And for professionals, you're going to be able to actually find clients through our platform. People can say, find a trainer near me, find a trainer near online, find a nutritionist online. And then, like I said, you guys will be able to actually collaborate with each other through our platform. So that's the end game goal for the year. Our first expansion is going to be into the Zoom type training, where you're going to have Group X, yoga, Pilates, and then personal trainers. And then next step is we already had a big partnership lined up where we're going to be launching the first nutrition app. So we're basically going to take kind of like what MyFitnessPal is doing, but way better. We're basically like a way better interface. And then we're pulling all this food data from a company called Nutritionix. And then on our back end, you're going to be able to actually build out nutrition plans. So what the problem with MyFitnessPal is, one, it's very outdated, but two, if you're a nutritionist, you kind of just say, hey, do this on a PDF, and they go, okay, and they do it. Whereas with us, you're going to be able to actually build out that nutrition plan through our software and through pulling food like banana, one, okay, here's how many calories for the day. You go, cool, that's going to be good. And you send it to your client. And then the final stage of our journey is injury, AKA physical therapy, chiropractors, and athletic trainers. So that's kind of that's the journey for the rest of the next couple of years. Next couple of years. Yeah.
And some stuff going on for sure. And I'm sure, there's going to be a lot of stuff to keep in mind and to change along the way. And that's all part of the journey. But, I really do like that idea of kind of showing like, oh, hey, I'm going to my doctor and this is what I've been up to. Cause a lot of people, they go to the doctor and it's like, what have you been up to lately? And you're like, oh, same old same. And then, but it becomes becomes more useful of a visit. If you can be like, oh, this is actually, what I'm doing, how I've been, doing it for the last couple months or whatever. I think that has a really cool potential to it for sure. I mean, all of it does, but that's the one that struck me as like, oh man, that's that could be definitely revolutionary especially if you could get people to somehow use it that maybe are a little bit older, that go to the doctor more often, that need to keep up with these things more often. That would be, I think, a really cool thing. But,
well, the goal is we drive around for a really long time and you go to the doctor in 40 years and you have 40 years of workouts kind of listed on there. So yeah. I don't know where we're all going to be in 40 years, but ideally that's the scenario that we're going to be working with. So, yeah.
Man, I really appreciate your time today. It was cool to get to talk to you, the founder, the guy behind the app, if you will.
Behind the curtain.
It's really cool. So I appreciate you coming on.
Yeah. Absolutely, man. It was a pleasure. It was a pleasure being on here, Daniel. Thank you for having me, and looking forward to seeing the podcast.
I appreciate your time. Have a good day.
Thank you, man.